At the Silverstone Gala, the most exclusive charity ball in Manhattan, a billionaire stood silent near the dance floor, unmoved by the dazzling gowns or crystal chandeliers. That changed the moment a woman in a navy blue maid uniform walked in with a little girl clutching a doll. "What nonsense is this?" a shrill voice cut through the room. Eleanor Kensington, society queen and host of the event, stood glaring at the newcomer. How dare this woman bring a child into this ballroom? All eyes turned to the woman Ava Collins, 32, a hotel cleaner who had just finished her shift. Her daughter, Zoe, had left her favorite doll in the dressing room earlier that day and cried so hard that Ava came back to retrieve it. She hadn't planned on stepping into the ballroom. But here she was face to face with Manhattan's most elite, in the wrong clothes, at the wrong time. Eleanor raised a manicured hand. "Security." Zoe, confused by the hostility, whispered, "Mommy, why is that lady so angry?" "Let's just get your doll and go," Ava murmured, guiding her daughter gently, but the exit was already blocked by two guards in tuxedos. Across the ballroom, Julian Kensington, Eleanor's son and heir to the Kensington fortune, watched the scene unfold. He was used to his mother's theatrics, but something about this moment was different. The dignity in Ava's posture, the quiet defiance in her eyes, and the way she shielded her daughter like a fortress of grace. Eleanor approached, voice dipped in condescension. "What an unfortunate interruption. Just when the most powerful men in New York are gathered." Before Ava could speak, Zoe looked up at Eleanor and said, loud and clear, "Why are you so mean to my mom? She works really hard." The ballroom fell silent. Julian stepped forward. Before he realized what he was doing, he asked, "May I have this dance?" Ava stared at him, stunned. This had to be some cruel joke. But then Zoe whispered, "Go, Mom, show them." And Ava took his hand. As the orchestra resumed, Ava began to move. With the poise and precision of a classically trained ballerina, she glided across the marble floor every turn, every step echoing with unspoken power. Guests gasped. The woman they had mocked was dancing like a principal at the Royal Ballet. Eleanor's face paled. But no one knew what chilled her more, the dance or the name whispered next. "Wait," a man in the crowd said. That's Ava Richardson." The room trembled. 15 years ago, Ava Richardson had been the rising star of American ballet, accepted to the Royal Ballet School, set to make history as the first black principal dancer at the Met. Until scandal hit. Intimate photos leaked. Drug rumors. Contracts vanished. She disappeared. Eleanor Kensington had told her once, years ago, "You have talent, but this world has rules. Some doors don't open for people like you." Now Ava stood before her, not ruined but returned. Julian asked, stunned, "Is it true? Were you really Ava Richardson?" Before she could answer, a familiar voice broke the tension. "Impossible," scoffed Eleanor. "That woman died the day she was exposed." But not everyone bought it. Especially not Victor Marlowe, a retired dance critic who had watched Ava with a trained eye. "That technique, I'd recognize it anywhere." By the next morning, Eleanor had mobilized her old network. Rumors flooded private schools and donors' inboxes. Ava's daughter became the target, now threats of expulsion, whispers of instability. But Ava was ready. She wasn't that 20-year-old girl anymore. She called David Laramie, a former investigative journalist turned private eye. Years ago, he'd discovered the truth behind Ava's downfall, but she hadn't been ready to face it. Now she was. David arrived with receipts. 6 other women, Black, Latina, Asian, had suffered the same fate. A sculptor, a pianist, a playwright, each destroyed by anonymous tips, false accusations, and one name behind them all, Eleanor Kensington. Ava didn't just have her own story. She had years of documents, recordings, photographs collected quietly as a hotel made the invisible woman in the room who saw everything. Every careless conversation. Every unshredded memo. Every whispered deal. Eleanor had spent years silencing women like Ava. But this time, Ava had the MIC. Within 48 hours, the evidence hit the press. Eleanor's voice, on tape. Certain people don't belong in our world. Sponsors fled. Museums cut ties. The Silverstone Gala was cancelled indefinitely. Julian watched it all unfold not just as a son, but as a man waking up. He went to Ava's apartment, where Zoe was finishing her homework. "I'm sorry," he said, "for what my family did." "You don't have to apologize for someone else," Ava replied. "But you do have to choose what kind of man you'll be next." 6 months later, Ava opened a ballet school free, inclusive, funded by the public and Julian. Zoe danced in the first recital, center stage. Eleanor showed up in the back row. No seat, no invitation. Just a faded ghost watching the woman she once buried rise from the ashes. Zoe leaned in. "Mom, I think she gets it now." Ava smiled. "Understand what?" "That trying to dim someone else's light doesn't make yours shine brighter. It just leaves you in the dark." And that night, as applause filled the room, no one cheered louder than the woman who had once been erased and chose to rewrite her story.